Okay, so let's take a look at situational judgment. Now, the first time round I did situational judgment, I got a band 2 or 3, one of the two. Now, I wasn't very pleased with that score. Second time round I did the UCAT, I got a band 1. Now, what was it that I did that got me from a band 2, 3 to a band 1? And this is exactly what helped me. This good medical practice guide. Now, this is just outlining all the expectations of a good doctor. You will find this on the General Medical Council's website, so if you type it into Google right now, you'll find it, and it's quite a long document, so reading through it will take a bit of time, but I printed this off and I highlighted it and I annotated it and really went into in-depth with this guide. Now, this document here really did help me drive towards the correct answer, and I absolutely loved it. Well, not in that way, but honestly, it really did help. So I'd suggest you doing the same as well. Now, here are just a few tips. Now, before we continue, just make sure that you are familiar with the situational judgment layout, so all the questions and the question types that come up. So I'd also recommend doing a bit of practice as well, so you are familiar, because the tips I'm about to mention require you understanding what the situational judgment section is about and the type of questions that you will face. So tip number 1, read the scenario first, don't read the question first. So read the scenario first, then the question. By reading the question first, then you will have to go back into the scenario, and then by the time you finish reading the scenario, you have to go back to reading the question. Just don't do that. Read the scenario first, then read the question. Number 2, identify the character and imagine being in the shoes of that character. Now, there will be a difference between your actions and the actions of a lead consultant. So use your imagination during the exam. Really feel what it's like being that character. What would they possibly do? Not what would you do, but what would they do? Number 3, treat every question individually and don't make these assumptions like, oh, the last 5 questions were all very appropriate, so this question must also be very appropriate as well. So number 3, treat every question individually and don't make these assumptions. For example, oh, the last 5 questions were all very appropriate, so this last question must also be very appropriate. So treat every question individually. Number 4, identify the risks and benefits. So when deciding whether an action is appropriate or inappropriate, identify the risks and benefits. If there are more benefits, then obviously it's more appropriate. Number 5, when reporting, identify, is it true what you are reporting? And then, have I clarified what I plan on reporting? And then, am I reporting to the right level? It doesn't make sense, obviously, to report someone who's not wearing school uniform to the Deputy Director of Education England, just as an example. So obviously that's an extreme example, and doing that wouldn't really be, appropriate. In fact, you would rather tell your head teacher or your teacher. And number 6, practice on Medify and on the official website, so the official UCAT website, and practice all the bank of questions in situational judgment. Once you've practiced, then write down a list of any answers that you did not get right the first time, and soon you should have over 50 different points that you didn't get right the first time, and review those points. And then once you revise the situational judgment again, or do more mocks on situational judgment, you'll be able to come across certain examples that you previously got wrong, but now you will get right. So similar to abstract reasoning. Now, with the points that you got wrong, I would organize them into these 2 tables. So obviously the importance questions and the appropriate questions are 2 different styles of questions. So any points I get wrong, I want to write them in this table here. So any action which is very appropriate and I got that question wrong, then I would add it into the table. And over time, you should have this table filled, and you want to constantly review this table every time you're about to do a situational judgment practice.